We are live. Hi, guys. This is Noor Al Masri from Noura's Books, tax and accounting professional, and the founder of Noura's Books. So, I help entrepreneurs save in taxes and stop overpaying. So, if you want to stop paying in taxes, make sure you connect with me. And today I have with me my friend Brittany. Brittany C. She is nonprofit strategist. Is a SCORE Houston. Um, well, you tell me, what do you do on SCORE?
Workshop present.
Okay, welcome, Brittany. So, if you've been following me or Brittany for more than a year, you would know like we were going live back in 2023 almost every Friday, at least for 6 months. So you probably want to watch those videos. We spoke a lot about nonprofits, like everything that you want to know about nonprofit. We spoke about, and I recently stopped talking about nonprofits on YouTube because I have enough content there, and I'm focusing on other business owner. I'm focusing on tax strategies to make sure you guys don't overpay in taxes. I still have all my content about nonprofit. I still help nonprofits, but I haven't spoken recently about nonprofits. But today is special. So that's why we are here back again, me and Brittany together, to talk to you about what's been going on the federal grant freeze. And as you know, I'm a tax professional, so this is my busy season. So I wasn't able to follow. So who's better than my friend Brittany to come talk to you about what's going on? She's fully updated. That's her specialty. That's what she knows. That's what she has. Yesterday, we recorded an episode at Echoes of Impact. That's my TV show. She was a guest there and she spoke a little bit about it. But now we're gonna talk more about it. That episode's gonna is not gonna be released until this coming next week, next Tuesday. So Echoes of Impact comes on Now Media TV every Tuesday at 5 p.m. And Brittany was my guest, one of my guests, but she spoke about the federal grant freeze. So now she's gonna talk more. So Brittany, welcome back, and finally we are back together on my YouTube channel, and I'm very excited. Very excited.
Yes,
Mm. All
me
right.
too. Like, this is where I belong. But just a quick introduction to the people that, because I know it's been a while and you're like, what are you up to, Brittany? So, my name is Brittany C. I'm a nonprofit specialist. And like Nora mentioned, I am a SCORE Houston. I work with the SCORE Houston chapter as a workshop presenter. So, if you want workshops like the ones that I currently do on Eventbrite, but at SCORE, I do that as well. So you can always register and sign up. I actually have a workshop coming up on February 12th called What You're Not Told About Grant Writing Part 2. So I give another extensive breakdown, and it's a continuation on part 1 that I've already done on grant writing. I also help and empower minority business owners and nonprofit leaders get the funding they need at the beginning, at the start, or if they are already established. So it's great to be back again with Nora. This is like very nostalgic for me. Old times, but great times.
Awesome. Awesome. So we always talk about the rule 70-30, and what's a
Mhm.
better time to talk about it again. But before, why we want to talk about this, because a lot of nonprofits were scared. Not only nonprofit, a lot of other people who get funding from grants from government, federal governments, they were really scared. And we've been talking forever about really you need to have a diversified funding. So you need to really build your donor base. I have my course for nonprofits. It's available on my website to actually teach you how to build a sustainable organization on DonorBase and how to get your grant ready. So this is what we want you to do. But let's talk. Let's talk a little bit. And we are live, so you can ask us questions. Like you can actually put any question you have, whatever platform you are on. But Brittany, can you give them a like summary? Maybe some people like did not hear about the freeze yet, like they're busy or something. Maybe like someone like missing have miss information. So can you give some brief like of what happened in the last couple of days and today, and give the people the update?
Yes, so this is a lot, but I'll keep it short because I understand there's a lot of details, and with a lot of details comes a lot of confusion. So a simplified um here's a simplified update on what's going on. So this started on like the 27th, right? So at 11 p.m. on the 27th, Trump passed this mandate that freezes all federal funding. And when we say all federal funding, we mean all. So if it was federal funding for schools, free lunch, Medicaid, everything was frozen. But then they came back and said, no, we'll release Social Security and Medicaid and essential needs. At first, they said, we're just going to freeze food stamps, which is government assistance, which is a government grant. But they were like, no, we need to keep that one open. And then there was questions about unemployment. Will unemployment be shut down? Because yet again, that is government funding. So I'm pretty sure you guys catch and you see the pattern here. So that was the first thing. And then on the 28th, everyone is either panicking or blindsided by this because on the 28th, yesterday, Trump said that he was this freeze is going into effect at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Well, we're being Nora on Central Time, so that would have been 4 o'clock our time. So it would have went in effect by freezing everything, and that means it's a possibility that if you already were getting government funding, like you had the grant already, that would have possibly been frozen. It would have also possibly been frozen if you are a nonprofit executive and you're paying your employees strictly with grant funding. It would have affected small businesses, for those small businesses that rely on grant funding to help them start. So this is what this would have done. Then at the same hour, so 5 o'clock Eastern, Trump said, okay, this is going to effect. And then at the same time, a DC judge said, absolutely not. We are not going to have this go into play. Give us into February 3rd for our answer, because this isn't right. And many people wanted to know, is it possible that this was constitutional or did it go against the law? And the judge found that it was unconstitutional, and it did break the law of the Impoundment Act of 1974, which states that any president that is in office cannot stop for any reason government funding, because so many people, not just because so many people rely on it, but because it does so good. Government funding is in your job creation. It's in some of you guys' wealth. If you wanted to start your generational wealth with government contracts, it's in some of those freebies that your city gives away for you. You're not paying for it because your city already paid for it by way of a grant, a federal grant at that. So it has a lot of moving parts. But recently, I found this out like around 1, 2 o'clock Central Standard Time, that the freeze that judge ruled, and the freeze is over. Like they ruled against the freeze. So
we don't have to wait until February 3rd anymore. So it's gone.
It is gone. And this is a permanent decision, because I strongly believe, I understand where President Trump was going for. The target, to, if I'm being honest, and he said this already, the target was illegal immigrants, for those that are living in the US either by way of their born children or they just never got Social Security, they are getting government benefits. So this freeze was to stop them from getting extra government funding, but it hurt a lot of other things. It stopped NIH for their scientific research. So if they were having breakthrough discoveries with cancer and other forms, other incurable diseases, and they're like, we found a cure, that funding would have stopped. Schools and universities, a lot of your HBCUs, that funding would have stopped. Free lunch would have stopped. They are also trying to eliminate and alleviate the DEI, equity, and I believe it's the LGBTQ as well. I'm not 100% sure on that, but it's in circulation. So a lot of this, where we are diversifying and there's funding for it, it may not be funding for that. And then he changed his mind and said, oh, this freeze is just a review to make sure that there are no federal scams. But the federal government knows if it's a scam already. Like, they have procedures and people in place for that already. So it just didn't make sense.
Yeah. So, like, I mean, he talks a lot and he makes a lot of decisions, but it doesn't mean everything he says is going to go, because if it's illegal, I'm glad we have court system, we have Supreme Court, we have people to say, no, this is unconstitutional. This cannot happen. Yeah, he can, sometimes like a little damage can happen, but it's all fixable, I guess. Like, we cannot like move forward. What do you think, Brittany?
He cannot move forward until otherwise. I do have some more notes on this, but I also wanted to do this. I understand what he was trying to do, but he did not once consult his own team. He didn't consult Congress. He just said, we got to go. We got to push this forward. And I found out in my research that he did this in 2017. The same thing, he was trying to push it in February 7th, 2017. The same thing. And the judge denied that because in 2017, when Trump did the same thing when he was in office, several people who had visas to travel, their visas immediately were terminated. So they were stuck where they were in their travels. They could not get back to where they were. It shut down jobs. It shut down travel, work-related business travel. It shut down a lot then. But we didn't feel the effects of it as much because at the time, it was just kind of between Washington State and Trump with the House and what was it? I'm just getting back to my notes here. It was the U.S. Department of Homeland Security as well that was involved in 2017. So
yeah, back then I remember some of my friends, like, who, I'm originally from Syria, as you know. So some of my friends, like, who are U.S. citizens, they were denied travel to the U.S. because of the freeze of travel of visas and everything. And they were U.S. But some airlines were like, no, because your passport say you were born in Syria. I'm like, really? They had to struggle for 24 hours, but then they were able to come. But that's crazy, because when he says something, some agencies or airlines or whatever, they cannot interpret that, and it causes some issues for people.
I was gonna just add on to what you were saying about the visas. It was to the point where you have a brand new visa, right? You just got it stamped, and now you're going back and they're telling you, oh, well, we gotta take your visa from you now. It's denied, it's terminated, you can't get it back. So now you're either stuck in a country that you can't get back to your original country, and then now you're forced to break that country's laws because your visa got revoked. And you're trying to tell them, I'm not a citizen of this country. I belong to this other country. And they're saying, well, that's great, but you got to show proof of your visa. And you're like, well, I can't show proof because it got revoked. Well, we don't believe your story. So you got to get a visa here in order to get back. And it was crazy. Um, but yeah, there's so much that happened back then. And
Mhm.
then I find it hilarious that he was trying to repeat the same thing now and so fast. And I understand why now. Because back in 2017, they did go through a long, lengthy procedure. And it
Mhm.
was not only Washington, it was the US Supreme Court as well. So that court again in Washington denied him. And I also had the just a little bit of information on the Impoundment Act. And so
Mhm.
it was created as a procedure to keep the executive branch in line. And this is to withhold or uphold the budget of authority. So, you know how we have, going back to our government class, we have the judicial, legislative, and executive branch, and each branch makes sure the other one is in right standing with each other, and none of them are supposed to have more power or less power over the other.
Mhm.
So when you violate that, that's when Congress gets involved. And mind you, Congress is the one that said, okay, Congress is the one that approved this. And they didn't read it. They didn't know. They were just like, okay, that's the president. Okay. So you have these people that didn't read Trump's executive order that he signed, and they signed it. And then now when grants are being affected, this is an outrage. This is unconstitutional. Why
Mhm.
would you do this? That affects my salary. But you didn't read what you were signing.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you recommend? So now, like, let's just like for people who maybe just joined to now, like what um so there's no effect in federal grants, so they can still apply for federal grants. If they have funding, they still can get it. So
Yes.
that's not gonna affect them.
Correct. So this is going as if this freeze never happened.
Mm,
So the grants that you've been applying for, you still have a chance to get. And I was so worried because I'm currently working with my church home to get them not only foundation grants for their project that they want to do, a really big project that they want to do in another state.
mhm,
And whenever I found this out, I was just like, I gotta call them. I gotta tell them about this. And I did, but it was almost like, I don't want to say I called in vain, but it was just kind of like, okay, well, it'll work itself out. And I was like, but you don't understand. This is what's happening. And they were like, well, we'll just have to see what happens. And I'm just like, okay, you're right. And so now with this freeze out of the way, you do qualify for that federal even government contract funding.
mhm,
And the reason why this is such a threat, because think about it, the only people that were not affected by this are those, or not as affected by this, are the people who are in charge of the non-federal grants. So your foundation, your philanthropists, your donors, those people already have the money. So they were like, "Oh, what's that? Our 20% of our funding comes from the government.
mhm.
Okay, we're fine." you know. So
Exactly.
they were not affected. And
Mhm,
this is kind of leading into what we were probably about to go into about the 70-30 rule. This is what I stress. This is the hill I am willing to die on. I have a course also dedicated to teaching this, letting you know why the 70-30 rule is important, because 70% of funding should come from you as a nonprofit leader, as a business owner, and only 30% of funding comes from those grants, whether they're on the federal, non-federal level, government contracting. It doesn't matter. And it amazes me as a grant writer how many people just are fighting tooth and nail, clawing at the 30%. I need a grant. You promised me this grant. I have to have this grant. But you're ignoring the 70% of work that you need to be doing as a leader, because that's building your cushion. And this is something they also tell you whenever you're applying for this. That's why they ask for your budget. They want to know, what have you been doing on your own before you came and asked for this grant? Because
Mhm.
a lot of people kind of run it like a Pell Grant. They're like, well, I approved my income, I approved this, so give me funding because I deserve it. Or, the national trope, I am a nonprofit who loves helping others, fund me. And it's like, we need more
Mhm.
than that. Like, what is it that you do? Are you like, who are you as a nonprofit organization? What have you done in your past? What is your
Mhm.
impact? Can all of this speak for you in order to attain funding, or is it something that you're still working on? And either way, you should be honest with them about it.
Yeah, I mean, everyone think their organization is the best. However, of course, because if you don't think so, you wouldn't do it. But like, who would I believe it as a funder, right? And plus, people goes the harder route. Is it easier to come to me as a person and ask me for donation the proper way, the way that makes me wants to support you, or is it easier to go get I don't know how many people agree and approve your application with all the paperwork and everything. Like people wants to go the harder route all the time where there's a competition, but yet like very few people do it the right way. And they forget to really equip themselves to ask the donors the way they should ask them. Yeah, and that breaks my heart. And like, but you cannot do it for them. So people who wants to do the due diligence, who wants to learn, who wants to get the education, they win always. I know a lot of organizations, they rely on on people like you and me to get funding. Some of them they don't touch the grants, which I'm against that too, because why not? This is an extra
This is
funding
this
that's
is the
included.
reason.
Exactly. And but also it's great that you guys don't like having no federal funding or no grant funding. It's not gonna shut your operation. So that's great. So you want to have a balance. You want to have, like I said, like, okay, like 70-30. So don't ignore federal grant or grant in general, but also don't forget the main thing that you have to set yourself up to win with individual donations, because every person wants to donate, even the kids wants to donate, but you have to find your ideal donors. And that's what I speak about a lot in my course. Just like, okay, build that foundation, make sure you have this like you have this foundation that's attract the right donors to you, and just do that. And that's going to help you with establishing yourself for grants. And you tell me, Brittany, like, when a funder sees that you are doing good with funding, you don't really need them, are they more likely to fund you, or do they think, oh, you don't need them, they're going to go to someone who don't have money?
Right? It's both, but not really. But here's my thing on that. Think about this. When was the last time you walked into a bank, you asked for a $3,000 loan, you didn't have to put no money down, you didn't even have to put up collateral, and they just let you walk out of the bank with that loan? And then they told you, pay us back whenever.
Yeah, never happened to
Anyone?
me. Not
Never
even a
happened to me
thousand.
either. Because when I went to the bank and I got a loan for $2,000, I had to show proof of income. I had to show that that all my documents were correct. They had to call the apartment that I was living in at the time. They had to call my job. They had to verify all the information I was giving them before they said, okay, we'll give it to you. So they don't just hand out loans and then tell you to, oh yeah, just pay this back whenever. Usually they tell you, okay, you're taking this out. We're going to give you XYZ amount of years to pay it off. Your monthly payment is as low as $30, as high as $150. And this is what you have agreed to paying us every month. You can pay more, but if you are paying more, just know that if you pay this off sooner, that's great. But the thing they don't tell you about that is when you pay off your loan sooner than intended, your credit score drops by like 80 points, because that's what happened to me. And then it shot up like 150 points a month after that. So here's the point I'm saying. You, just like I gave that analogy about what happened when I got a loan, I had to be prepared and I had to have the proper documentation to prove that. That's exactly how you want to approach your funders. You want to make sure that you are telling them, hey, I'm getting crowdfunding, I'm fundraising, I'm getting donors. This is what my 70% is. And then from there, they will present you with a grant. So they want it, it's a lot easier for them to see your record of what you have already done on your own as a nonprofit or a business, for them to say, oh yeah, you're definitely going to be approved for this grant. Because although grants do not require you to pay them back, and that's true, it's still not free money, because you had to do all the research to put in your proposal. You had to get your strategy plan together, your logic model. Do you have people on staff? How often are you doing this and running this program? Is it, how long is it? Is it long term or is it short term? You have to gather all of this information together, present it to them in a form of either a LOI or a grant proposal. And then you're telling them, I've already done this on my own, but I need a little bit of help. And they will most likely fund you. This is another reason why Nora and I stress being prepared on day one. When you start your formation, we tell you, make sure you got your business account. Make sure you're separating your payments. Make sure that whenever you're filling out your forms from the beginning, you're set up. So whenever it comes, you're prepared, and you can get funding quicker when you're set up properly than you can if they ask, okay, so what's your budget? And you're like, I don't know, 10 million. But they saw that your 501c3 happened last week. So why would you need $10 million? Well, what would that be for? And if you need $10 million today, what is the implementation plan that you need to have in order to make that happen on day one? Is this 10 million for job creation, or is this 10 million to get you out of the hole with your creditors? And if it's the latter, that's not what grant funding is for anyway.
Absolutely. So you need to educate yourself. You need to be ready. You need to make sure you're investing in the education. You're investing with professionals, because like talking to professionals, getting coaching, getting education, doing research, that's going to save you tons of times and money, rather than just heartbreaking and just relying on information that's misleading you with maybe yeah.
Misleading information, because I've had two cases where and one of the cases was my mom. And my mom is a smart lady. She didn't know that much about grants, but she knows a scam when she sees it. And this one person told her, yeah, I can get you a grant for $10,000. And my mom was like, okay, what do I have to do? They said, okay, well, my fee is $6,500. And then after that, I'll get you $10,000. And my mom was like, wait a minute. If I have to pay 2/3 of what the grant costs, I could just save the rest of the money and then reinvest it in myself. No deal. I'm good. Then I had a friend of mine say that a scammer posing as a nonprofit organization, I don't know if it was a popular one or not, but they were posing to him as a nonprofit organization. And this was around COVID-19, when people were losing their houses and losing their apartments. And this was around where they just jump started the stimulus. So people were telling them, I can get you $100,000 for your house or your apartment, and then you can spend the money how you want. And when he told them, I'm friends with a grant writer, and she's telling me that you're a scam, they blocked him. So what does that tell you? The more you are educated, and then this particular friend watches mostly all of my videos or a good majority of them. So as Nora mentioned earlier, all the nonprofit stuff that you need to build your nonprofit for success is on her YouTube channel. And then if you want to, you subscribe to Nora, and then when you're done subscribing to her, subscribe to me, because I give you a rundown of how do you start getting yourself positioned and prepared for grant funding on the federal and non-federal level. I also show you in some of my trainings what it is to look for. And these are also on like my videos. I do have my courses, but every now and then I will give a little nugget just so y'all have that information. I tell you when is the best time you should apply for funding, because if you already didn't know, on the non-federal level, January, February, and March are the best times to apply on the nonprofit level, on the non-federal level rather. And right now, this is the first quarter on the non-federal, and we're already in the second quarter of the federal, so the government side. So they, just like a lot of the things that I'm saying, it applies to both. So they release their funding, their brand new funding for the government in October. And on the non-federal, they release it in January. They also release it in December to get rid of the old funding. Like I believe you mentioned already, 31% of grant fundings are released in December, and then another 10% of grant funding is released for the last 3 days. So the last 3 days of December. So we were telling you this so you guys can take advantage, number one. And number two, we want you to know that also with this freeze, this is the reason why, and this is coming from a nonprofit specialist who writes grants all the time. This is why we tell you, you cannot rely solely on grant funding to get what you need. Now, if you're already being funded by a philanthropist or a nonprofit who is not solely depending on federal funding, you're fine. But then with those people and those particular grants, the competition is much higher. Whereas the government, the competition is lower, but you do have more work to do. So we want everyone to be well-rounded and aware. We don't want you going in and, we hate to burst your bubble, but it's for your own good. We don't want you going in with rose-colored glasses and dreamy eyes. Oh, I can get $1 million because I just got my 501c3 last week, and they're going to give me like 100 trillion, and I can be successful on day one.
Absolutely.
You can be successful on day one, but not 100 trillion is going to be in funding for you.
Yeah, absolutely. We don't want to make this long because, we got a lot of things we need to do today. And we want you, like those who did not watch it yet, like do not be discouraged to watch the video so they can get the education about it. So any last message, Brittany, you want to tell them, like 30 seconds?
30 seconds. Okay. So I would say right now I have my store that I have my courses on. I just had a sale, but if you have questions about grants, if you want to get in my courses, if you want to subscribe to my YouTube channel, all of these resources are available to you because I truly believe that grant funding is the way. However, you do have to prepare yourself for more than just grant funding.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Brittany. You guys can subscribe to Brittany's and go check her store. Also subscribe to Nora's books. And I'm having a lot of videos, a lot of shorts, I'm going live every Monday about taxes, and I'll be answering a lot of questions. Like I've been receiving some questions from people about different things on taxes, not only business. So I'll be talking about a certain topic, but while I'm talking about the certain topic, I will take the last few minutes to answer questions for people who has been sending me their questions, tax questions about variety of topics, personal taxes, business taxes, and everything. And for you guys, if you want to build your donor base, you can go to noorasbooks.com/store, and there you can find the 7-figure nonprofit fundraising roadmap. That is a course on demand. You can watch, you can there's a lot of tools that you can utilize so you can start building your donor base. Don't hesitate to get that going, because you don't want to be freaking out if someone stopped the funding one day. You want to make sure you diversify your funding. So between my materials and Brittany's materials, you will be rounded up. Like, we'll be ready to really rock your nonprofit and be on the top if you really want to be on the top. Because a lot of people, they really just want to feel good that they're doing good, but they don't end up like doing anything really, really good. Like, they have an opportunity to help thousands of people or hundreds of thousands of people, but they just want to help a couple of people. It's up to you, no wrong or right, but don't say you want to help hundreds of thousands of people when you don't take those steps, serious steps, to really help those people. You're just like thinking small, and the steps and the investments you are making for your nonprofit. So be honest with yourself. Like, make sure you're aligned with what you're talking about and what you're doing. So that's it. And thank you so much for watching us. I see there's a comment. It's good to know the 30%. Yes, I don't see the name for LinkedIn user. Yes, exactly. This is like we want make sure like every nonprofit leader knows it's 30%. It's not limits though. It's not limits, but this is the percentage that you should have. You should not rely on grants. It shouldn't be more than 30%. It could be millions of dollars, but that means you're gonna have to cover yourself with also donors, like different type of funding, not relying on grants. So if you were able to get like millions of dollars, that means you're able to get like a lot of donors. But donors comes first. The more that you show that you are capable to raise, to manage, the more money you are managing yourself before you ask for grants, the more likely the funder is going to trust you in a larger amount of money. That happens naturally. So this is how it is. So hopefully you guys got that, and make sure I'm gonna put here, wait, oops, not this one. Well, I'm trying to copy what you have. Okay, so I'm going to just put really quick the store for Brittany, so you guys can follow that. So this is her store. So you follow the link on the screen, so you guys can go to the link and check out her store. I'm gonna leave it for a couple of seconds, and then I'm gonna put the link for my course, 7-Figure Nonprofit Mastermind, and this is it. So this is the link. If you just go to noorasbooks.com/store, you can find it, or you can put the entire thing like /Nooras7FN. Well, it's a lot of letters, but you can take a screenshot. You can watch it again. And again, like, check Brittany's and check mine and see what's can best fit you right now. And we will see you later. Have a great day.
Bye. Take care, everyone.